Hey everyone, I am back. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. I hope that you have had an awesome week. For those of you who are brand new to Mental Health Moment, welcome, welcome. It's Dr. Hammond here with your Mental Health Moment. For those of you who tune in every single week, welcome back. And thanks so much for joining here. It's Dr. Hammond here with your Mental Health Moment. And for those of you who are watching the replay on Dr.Nekeshia Hammond YouTube, welcome. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video. And thanks for those who are starting to join here. It's Dr. Hammond here with your Mental Health Moment. Let me know where you are tuning in from in the chat. I reside in the Tampa Bay area of Florida, where I'm shockingly located today. Usually, for those of you who are not new to Mental Health Moment, you know I'm normally in some other city, somewhere in the world. But today I am back in the Tampa Bay area of Florida. So welcome, welcome. Thanks again for those of you who are starting to join here. Again, as we, if you've been listening the past couple of weeks, we're talking about moving into the new year here and how you can move into the new year powerfully and some tips. And for those of you new to Mental Health Moment, we talk all things mental health and wellness. How do you become the best version of who you are so you can show up for yourself and show up powerfully for those around you? And thanks again for those of you who are starting to join here. So today, so before I get started, I wanted to share something with you that relates to today's mental health moment, because we all go through a lot of different life experiences. And as I've been mentioning over the past couple mental health moments, it's really important that we take some life lessons from things that happen to us unexpectedly in our life. So this past weekend, I had to go to Miami, unfortunately, because a good friend of mine from college, her mom had passed away. So obviously just very difficult experience, because grief is obviously not easy. And this is a person who she's an amazing human being. And so was her mom. And I remember her mom very fondly from college. And even into like other years of my life, just great, amazing family. And so I went, and actually it's one of my sorority sisters. And so I was meeting another sorority sister down there in Miami to attend the service. And so I basically was communicating back and forth with and thanks for those who are still starting to join here. It's Dr. Hammond here with your Mental Health Moment. For some reason, I cannot see all the comments. I'm not sure what's happening, but nonetheless, let me know where you're tuning in from in the chat. For some reason, I haven't been able to see some of the comments the last 2 weeks or so for some reason, but I'll try to work on the technicalities of that later on. But hopefully you're letting me know where you're tuning in here from in the chat. So I was on the way to the service and realized, I had to pick up a sympathy card from the store and that sort of thing. So I had texted my other sorority sister who I was meeting at the service and said, hey, can you save me a seat? And so she essentially said, sure, no problem. And then long story short, she ended up getting lost. So she was like, well, actually, can you save me a seat? And I'm like, sure, no problem. So I get there and I'm doing the GPS because I don't live in Miami right now. And I was just trying to mentally prepare myself, because it can be a lot, of course, to attend a funeral. There's a lot of sadness and it's just hard. So I'm getting there, got the GPS and everything. And unfortunately I see the hearse outside the church. So I'm like, okay, turned in, went into the church. Everyone was nice, greeting me. Hi, how are you doing? Great. So I go in and I sit down and I text my friend and I say, hey, when you come into the church, go to the left entrance, go to the left door, go to the left entrance. And I'm sitting kind of close to the back. And I'm waiting. And actually I was distracted. I was writing up the sympathy card, in the church. I didn't see my sorority sister who had lost her mind. I didn't see her yet. But I'm waiting for my other sorority sister who's going to meet me and all the things. So then it's like 7 minutes later And she's texting me and she's like, hey, where are you? And I was kind of like, I just told you where I was at. Like, when you come in the church, there's only two entrances. It's the left door and the right door. Like, that's it. So I text her again. I'm like, when you come in the lobby area of the church, go to the left and come in the left door. Right. So I'm kind of texting her and so she's like, I don't see you. And I'm like, what? Where is she? So I kind of, stand up, I look around, I'm like, where is she? And then she asks me, she goes, are you sure you're in the right place? And I kid you not, you all, I'm sitting there in this church. I am at a funeral. And a part of me was like, my brain, you know how like sometimes your brain can't make sense of something? I'm like, okay, clearly, I mean, I don't mean to be graphic, but I'm at a funeral. Like, I see a coffin and a body in front of me, like several rows up though. However, I don't know my sorority sister's extended family. So all these people that I was talking to, I don't know what her extended family looks like. I know what her sisters look like and, obviously her parents, but never her extended family. So there's all these people that I wasn't aware of that I was saying hi to. I was sitting, in these pews, like praying for these people, praying for their comfort and all that sort of thing. And when my other sorority sister texted me and was like, are you sure you're in the right place? I literally stopped and I'm like, I'm at a funeral. Like, I'm supposed to, what? And I couldn't make sense of it. So I'm like kind of near the back of the church. So I look up. Remember, I'm distracted and I'm signing a sympathy card and doing all these things. I look up and I could barely see the name of the person, but I squinted to see the name of the person. And it was not my sorority sister's mother. And I was like, oh my God. It's like, I'm in the wrong place. I was at the wrong funeral. I kid you not. I'm like, so I text my friend. I'm like, oh my God, like, what's happening? So obviously I left that place because I was not in the right place. And I kid you not, I'm like, what are the chances? And all these people, like I said, I was saying hi, and these are strangers. I have no idea who they are. So I kindly left the church, obviously, and it was the next block. Like, so I had turned like one street too early, and I was literally at someone else's funeral. So I share this with you because a couple things that I learned from that experience. Number one, I know this is hard to recognize, but in a really hard place sometimes there's just a little glimmer of humor, slightly. Because at the end of the day, I was like, what just happened here? And I had to just chuckle. Like it was a hard moment. I felt, I mean, I adore my sorority sister. She obviously just lost her mother and also lost her dad earlier this year. So it's just heavy, right? But in just a little glimmer, it was just a little glimmer, just like a little glimmer of humor, right? And the second thing is, so one thing I want you to learn from this experience, hopefully that doesn't happen to you, you end up in the wrong place, right? But sometimes we think we're in the wrong place, but we're not. So it was funny. I was telling my grandmother this story the other day, and she was like, no, you weren't in the wrong place, because she was like, you were praying for those people who were there. Granted, I have no idea who any of those people were in that church, but she was like, but you sat there and you were praying for them, right? And I was like, yeah, I was praying. I like I said, I didn't know who they were, so I'm sitting there trying to pray for their comfort and just pray for healing. And grief is hard and all these sorts of things. So this is what I was going through mentally when I was sitting there waiting for my friend, who of course never showed up because I'm in the wrong place. And so she reminded me, she's like, no, you were in the right place because those people got extra prayers. And I was like, that's so beautiful. Right. So sometimes I'm sharing this with you. It's a little bit comical because, again, what are the chances? I'm like, what is happening here? But though, recognizing that sometimes we think we're in the wrong place in our lives, but we're exactly where we need to be, because maybe something that's happening to us can be a testimony to someone else. Maybe where you're at, for whatever reason, you are being protected from something else. I don't know. I do not know the reason why I got lost. For those of you tuning in, I am sharing last weekend's experience where I just shared the full story, but the short story of it is I accidentally ended up in the wrong, well, what I say was the wrong place, because I wasn't where I was supposed to be. And it was someone else's funeral. And I didn't even recognize that because first of all, I was in a rush, not paying attention. And not until my friend said, "Hey, where are you?" And then I recognized, yes, I had turned one light too soon. But a couple of things again, for those of you who are like, man, I feel like I'm in the wrong place right now in my life. Remember a couple of things. One, there's maybe something comical. If you feel like you're in a dark place, the wrong place, all those sorts of things, sometimes there's just a moment of laughter. And our friend, my sorority sister and my good friend, she was able to laugh just a little bit that day because of course me and my other sorority sister had to tell her the story of what happened and why. Yes, I was not where I was supposed to be at the time I was supposed to be. But there was just a glimmer of laughter. And then again, another thing to recognize, but there were people in that space though, which I prayed for and sent good vibes and try to send them healing vibes and all those sorts of things who I didn't even know. Um, and thirdly, again, remembering that sometimes the things that are happening to us are happening because of for our protection. We don't know why. I don't know why I wasn't at the other place. And I know you've probably heard this before, but we always think we know what's best for us, but the reality is that well, sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. And sometimes our circumstances in life are happening because they're preventing something that would have not been necessarily better for us from happening, if that makes sense. So the examples I always hear of is like, sometimes we're late, let's say, to get to places, but maybe it prevented an accident. Maybe you made the wrong turn, but maybe it protected you from a flat tire. Like there's all these sorts of things that happen, and we're like, why in the world did this happen? And I wanted this to happen, right? There's just certain things, a lot of things that are outside of our control. There's some things that are in our control, but there's a lot of things that are not in our control as well. So I share this with you all today, again, for you to remember if you're in that space, especially as we head into the new year where you're like, man, I don't know if I'm in the right spot. I don't have my clarity. I don't know if what's happening is supposed to be happening. And I want something else to be happening. And I know this is easier said than done, but when you think about practicing patience, when you think about practicing faith, and when I say faith, it doesn't matter what religion you do or do not practice, but just a belief system in yourself as well, a belief system that things will be happening for you in the way that they need to happen for you, positively happen for you. But sometimes we take a little detours, right? Clearly I took a detour this last weekend by mistake. But nonetheless, I wanted to really remind you all, and all that's happening when you get, it's not an easy thing to do. I did this over a long span of time, a lot of personal development. But getting to a mindset where you start to say, what is the lesson here for me? What is the lesson? For those of you who missed it, I think it was last month. I probably blocked it out. But last month or so, on Mental Health Moment, I shared many lessons that I learned from having an unexpected root canal. For example, like a root canal, not what I expected to hear that day when I went to the dentist. So nonetheless, um, there's a lot of things that we don't expect. There's a lot of things that will happen. There's a lot of disappointments. There's a lot of good times. There's things in between. There's a lot of life events that happen. But if you get into that moment where you're starting to question, why is this happening to me? Why is this not happening? Why is that not happening? Remember to take a step back and ask yourself, what is the lesson in this? And that is literally what I did, literally what I've been doing, I should say, over these past couple years after I really, really did a lot of self-reflection, did a lot of inner work, a lot over years, and different retreats and meditation and mindfulness times and all those sorts of things, a lot of time and prayer, all those sorts of things that I did to recognize and learn that we must work on getting to the point where we can ask ourselves, what am I learning from this? What did I learn from this? And that's what I did this past weekend as well. As I mentioned, is really think about like, why did that happen? First of all, what are the chances that I'm literally in the wrong place? I mean, attending the wrong funeral. Like it was kind of mind blowing. I'm like, whoa, how did that happen? But nonetheless, what did I learn from that? And in the process, understanding maybe there was some level of protection there. I'm more than happy to have prayed for the people I prayed for. I have no idea who they are, and I'll never see them again, probably in my life. But nonetheless, happy to pray for the strangers that I prayed for, who I thought were family members of my friend. But yeah, I especially as we move into the holiday season, there's, for those of you who are like, man, some of you may be excited actually about the holidays coming up, and some of you may be dreading it, and that's actually pretty common. And you may be dreading it for a lot of different reasons. There's a lot of losses during the holidays. There's a lot of there's a lot of losses. There's a lot of anniversaries of losses. There's a lot of family conflicts sometimes. Like, there's a lot of different things that happen during the holidays. But around you, if you celebrate any of the holidays coming up, but around you, you may see decorations and happiness and all these things, which can be hard, right? So you might feel like, man, I'm really in the wrong place right now. But just know there is a reason. There's absolutely a reason why you are there. And remember again to ask yourself, what is the lesson that I can learn from this? I promise you, not all the lessons are easy. It's just like that. I can't promise you that all the lessons are easy, because they're just not. And it does suck sometimes when you're like, man, why am I having this hardship, or why am I having this experience? I don't know if I need to learn this lesson, right? But at the same time, recognizing, what are you learning from it? And for some of you, you may say, you know what, I don't even know what I'm learning from it, right? Or you may be too overwhelmed or too stressed out, or whatever the case may be. That's okay, because sometimes we don't always know the lesson right away anyway, and it takes a little bit of time for us to really take a step back to think about what we're learning from it. For some of you, you need to be in a space, and that is completely okay, of resetting, recharging. For some of you, you're like, hey, it's the end of the year. I'm going to, push even further. There really is no right or wrong answer. I've seen different things online, actually, which I just follow a lot of wellness content online, and I feel like there's really mixed messages out there, but I'm strongly encouraging you to think about, for you to do the inner work, right? Not what is social media telling you to do, but what do you need, and how you find those answers are you spend time with yourself, right? Whether it's silent time, whether it's meditation time, whether it's, if you believe in prayer, whatever, spending time in nature, whatever it is for you to get quiet with yourself, is really important. I went to this conference, I think it was 3 weeks ago or so. And it was really great. There was this presenter there, and I loved how he said it. His name was Dr. Flowers. And I love that he talked about the difference between silent time and meditation, right? Which we think it's the same, but it's actually not. So, and I'm gonna share this with you as I wrap up here, but essentially silent time, well, it is what it is. So it's being in silence, but it doesn't necessarily mean meditating. So meditating is more intentional. So there are times where you may say, okay, I'm going to sit here, meditate, try to empty my mind, try to quiet my mind, have maybe no sound around you, or maybe it's soft music around you, or whatever it is, but sort of get into a meditative state or a zone. That is meditation. And again, it looks very differently depending on how you want to spend your meditation time. People do it in a lot of different ways. But that is very intentional time where you try your best to shut off your brain, and take the quiet time. Versus when you're in silent time, that might mean you are washing dishes, let's say, and you're not talking, right? You're being silent, or you're doing different things, or maybe you're doing some other type of chores, or you're doing something, right? You're not sitting there meditating in a quiet space, but you are silent, and you may be listening. And whatever you're listening to, if it's your own thoughts, maybe you're wrestling with something and your thoughts, maybe you're trying to calm down your thoughts, maybe you're connecting to, higher power, if you believe in a higher power. Like, whatever it is you're doing, it is silent, but you're still doing things. So that's the different, like, quiet time versus meditation time. And so I strongly recommend that you have both of those things in your life in the way that you can incorporate those things. So I'm going to wrap up here. If you all need me at any time, you can always go to drnekeshiahammond.com. You can also connect with me on Instagram, Dr.Hammond, LinkedIn, Dr. Nekeshia Hammond, or on Facebook, Dr. Nekeshia Hammond on there as well, or Twitter. But I'm generally sending out different mental health resources, wellness resources, something that is uplifting, something that's motivational. I try my best to work on being a better version of myself each day. And I highly encourage you to do that as well, which is why I do these mental health moments every single week. But yeah, be sure to connect. I will be back. I'm trying to think where I'm at. Okay, not in Tampa Bay next week, but nonetheless, I'm in some other city, I believe. But I will be back next Tuesday live right here on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. And I will see you all next week. So have an amazing week. Be sure to recognize and remember that if you feel like you're in the wrong place, generally you're not, and there's something positive for you to get out of that experience. So be blessed, have an amazing week, and I will see you guys next week. Bye, you guys.